Emotional abuse. Many of you have heard the term, and many of you in dysfunctional relationships are familiar with emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is when someone tries to silence you or discredit you or just disregard your opinion or your feelings, especially your emotions. And what that does is it causes you to get frustrated, angry, desperate. Um, you feel futile. You feel like there's no recourse or no one who can help you because your partner, the person who's supposed to provide a safe space and environment for you to express yourself, has caused you to shut down totally. There's no way for you to go. There's no one even complaining to your friends and family. It doesn't solve the situation that you're constantly engaged in or exposed to. Emotional abuse is something that can deteriorate not only the fabric of the relationship itself, but it can fracture you as an individual. It can stop you from having self-worth, self-value. It can hinder your self-esteem, your self-growth, and your self-respect. Why is it happening in the first place? Is it something that always happened and you thought it was cute at one point and now it's no longer cute because you're tired? Or you didn't recognize that the person was emotionally abusive? Or the person actually, created this smoke screen? I know this has happened to a lot of people in relationships. You marry someone and they were sweet as pie, like the Lifetime movies. And then within a few weeks, a few months or years, you don't recognize the person that you got into the relationship with because their behavior is totally different from the behavior they exhibited. A lot of times people do that. They show their best behavior. You've heard that, the honeymoon phase. People tell you what you want to hear. They say the things that they know that you will respond favorably to. Who the heck is going to beat the crap out of you on a first date unless they don't want to see you again or they don't care to see you again, right? But most relationships that have formed over a period of time, they've been done so deliberately with careful deliberation on the part of somebody else. But emotional abuse is something that should not take place, is something that should not be tolerated, is something that needs to be addressed in a relationship in order for it to be considered healthy. Emotional abuse is something that if persisted over a period of time, you wouldn't have a relationship. What you will be having is a roommate situation or a situation where one person's out the door and they just haven't completed the process of going through the door. But emotional abuse is dangerous because it can also turn to verbal abuse and it can also lead to physical abuse because it is a level of frustration that you cannot express with the other person, or a level of frustration where you take it out on the other person without realizing that you're displacing or projecting your feelings and emotions onto another person who is helpless to do anything about the behavior that you're exhibiting. It is important. It is important that you recognize if you're experiencing it, or even if you're the one, facilitating the action of the emotional abuse. It's important for both of you to know that sometimes the person who's emotionally abusing you, even if they're aware because you've said they're emotionally abusive, they may not understand where it's coming from. They may not understand the source of the irritation or the source of the dysfunction that's causing them to be emotionally abusive. Or the other person who's at the receiving end doesn't know why they stay, why they're still here, why they're still allowing this to happen. You cannot put everything under the banner of love and say you love this person to the point where you don't love yourself. Let me say that again. You cannot put everything over the banner of love and say, I love this person more than I love myself. I did a video on self-love. Self-love is very important. You should watch that video because without that, the emotional abuse will continue. And then you'll be left with being a shell of a human being, whether you're a man or a woman, because women can also be emotionally abusive just as men can be. It's not a gender specific thing. It's something that crosses across genders. I personally believe that emotional abuse can start as a child, in your childhood. I know my parents were emotionally abusive because a lot of times they wouldn't allow us as children to express our emotions. I remember I said in another video on here, my mom would beat you and said, don't cry. you know, and I still, that still rubs me the wrong way, but that's a Caribbean parent for you, or maybe you guys have parents that are just like that, but that's what I experienced. And then other times, you know, you want to say how you feel and you're hurting and you're not allowed to express that pain or that discomfort. And that makes you squish your emotions and push them down. And then you get into a relationship and you don't know how to adequately deal with your emotions because you were never allowed to. And then you're in a relationship with somebody who's so emotional and they expect you to be emotionally healthy or emotionally aware and you're not. And then you get frustrated because what they're asking you to do or deliver is something that you're not capable of or you don't know how to. So emotional abuse, even though I understand that it can disintegrate both the individualistic and the collective fabric, I also understand that in a lot of times in relationships, people come to relationships and they're not healthy because they haven't done the work. They haven't worked on themselves individualistically in order to show up in a relationship with someone else. And like I always say, if you can't show up for yourself, how the hell are you going to show up for somebody else? It's that simple. But emotional abuse is a real thing. Not recognizing or allowing the other person to speak, interrupting them when they're speaking, cutting them off, not wanting to hear what they have to say, not valuing their opinion, not valuing what they're saying in that moment, not giving them the opportunity to express themselves or to express their feelings or emotions is really a sad occurrence to witness. And it's sad because it prevents you from moving forward or wanting to trust that person. If you can't express yourself, if you can't be free to be who you are, then the whole notion of trust goes out the door because you can't even trust that person to express your emotions and tell them how you feel. How else can you trust them? Because they're not providing you with a safe space where trust can proliferate, where it can grow. And that's the whole notion of emotional abuse. For me, the biggest part of the emotion being emotionally abusive is it starts there, right? It starts with a disrespect. It starts with a continuation of the disrespect and a continuation of reinforcing that disrespect and isolating or disregarding that person's feelings. And then it goes from there. And then what it becomes is, you know, you lashing out, not just verbally, but you also can lash out physically. And then, you know, then it becomes problematic on a level where it is, you know, domestic violence or something like that. So it's nice and is a good habit to practice in your relationship. When somebody says to you, this is an emotionally abusive relationship, at that point, you need to pause and say, you know what, this is not going in a good direction. We can't control this if this gets out of control. So you need to stop and you need to take a step back and you both need to decide, let's tackle this. Let's get rid of this emotional abuse in our relationship. Let's find out the source of it. Let's find out why I'm doing what I'm doing, and let me find out why I'm staying and allow you to do what you're doing to me. And let's go from there and let's come to some commonality or some compromise. But it's something that needs to be addressed. I'm going to put an article in this video for you to read on emotional abuse, what emotional abuse is, and it goes into more detail and you can research as much as you want. Like I said, that's the benefit of having the internet. But if you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, you need to ask your partner for help, to help you and to help them get better. And that's the only course that you have. Staying in an emotionally abusive relationship, it will not get any better. It just gets worse or worse, I should say. I always confuse that terminology. The bottom line is don't stay if it continues like this, and also address it before it gets much worse. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for showing up here today. Thank you for giving me opportunity to, you know, talk on these different subjects that I come across in my practice. And hopefully I can help you in some way and help you to get the help that you need, whether it's through me or through someone else. If you need help, just get help, regardless of what it costs and regardless of what you need to do. Ask for help and reach out for help. As always, thank you for visiting the YouTube channel. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for liking the videos. Thank you for telling others about what I'm doing here, and continue to support me as I need your support in order to keep going. Have an amazing day. Bye.